Surrounded by famous wine country vineyards at the foot of lovely hills, the town of Sonoma is a living historic treasure of California.
Doug, if you had to pick your top 5 locations in California that really tell the California story, the early history of California, you could not leave Sonoma out on that list.
Sonoma is the site of the northernmost and last mission in California, established in the 1820s, and the very place where the bloodless Bear Flag Revolt ended Mexican rule in 1846 and ushered California towards eventual U.S. statehood during the Gold Rush. Gathered around an 8-acre plaza designed by the last commanding Mexican general of Northern California, Mariano Vallejo, whose picturesque home is nearby, you'll find barracks that once housed Mexican soldiers, the mission itself, and a rare collection of other important structures maintained and interpreted by California state parks.
It fits together. It's a string of pearls. It's a district. The whole is greater than the sum of parts, but the Blue Wing is probably the greatest part of all, and it needs to be saved. When you stand in front of the mission and you look across the street, that's early California.
This is the Blue Wing Adobe, and it looks much the way it did in the early 1850s, when it was the principal gambling hall, tavern, and inn in Sonoma, frequented by gold rush miners and soon-to-be famous Civil War generals such as Joseph Hooker and William Tecumseh Sherman, and the former Mexican general himself.
Do you suspect General Vallejo himself went into the Blue Wing Inn?
Not a doubt in my mind. Not a doubt in my mind.
The Blue Wing is one of the oldest, most authentic, and intact adobes in all of California. It's survived the decades as an inn, a residence, a winery, a museum, a chamber of commerce, and much more, because people cared.
That overall, it has endured incredibly. And I think it's a testament to, first of all, how well it was built, and secondly, to all the people over the years who've taken such good care of it, who've taken an interest in it, who really saw it as an important part of our heritage and wanted to pass that on to the next owners. And here we are in one of the original...
And now, it's our turn. The Blue Wing Adobe has been closed to the public since 2001. It's in great need of funds to support seismic retrofitting and careful restoration to make sure it's not lost to decay, and so they can open again and serve to inform and inspire people and tell its stories for generations to come.
But for me, when I get into buildings like that, the walls just start talking to me and give me a sense of perhaps what life was like, and I try to put my mind to that time period. It touched on California's history, and we can tell the story of California history perhaps sitting in the window of the Blue Wing Inn, looking out, watching California go by, so to speak.
Oh, the Blue Wing embodies many fascinating chapters in California's history. It has stories to tell we all should have a chance to hear.
The Blue Wing actually began its long life as a small residence in the 1820s or 30s.
This is actually one of the original parts of the adobe. It was a 2-room adobe, and this is one of the 2 rooms that we're actually in right now.
James Cooper and a partner purchased the small adobe in 1849. By 1851, it was getting larger and had been named the Blue Wing Inn, one of the few inns west of the Mississippi. By 1852, it reached its ultimate size.
This was the gambling hall.
The gambling hall.
Right. This was actually the heart of the whole building.
In the 1850s, this room in the Blue Wing was a very popular gambling hall. Next door in the building, a tavern was hopping too, and hotel rooms were upstairs. Sherman, Hooker, and U.S. Grant came through this very door, as did the famed Gold Rush-era singer Lotta Crabtree, and many others, famous, infamous, and long forgotten.
In the Blue Wing Inn, a little bit raucous, a little bit wild if you were there in the evenings, and kind of cleaning up the mess on the following morning, I think.
In 1856, Cooper was murdered, and the Blue Wing then went through multiple owners as the frontier and gold gave way to cultivation and a new wine industry. From the 1880s until Prohibition in 1919, Italian immigrant Augusto Pinelli pressed grapes outdoors behind the Blue Wing and stored huge volumes of wine indoors in the old gambling hall. the 2-foot-thick adobe walls keeping temperatures close to constant, despite summer heat and winter cold. Then, one day, Pinelli used his wine to save Sonoma and the Blue Wing from destruction. In 1911, a fire broke out in a cobbler's shop in this brick building near the plaza. The flames engulfed surrounding structures and raced towards the Blue Wing, not far away.
Pinelli, it's said, got out his wine and they pumped it onto the fire, and the fire was extinguished, and he was a hero for the day. I mean, and it's a wonderful story because, it talks about his use here as a winery and how he became the savior, for the town, and it's just delightful.
The stone-cut Pinelli building still stands near the plaza, and though only a shell, the Blue Wing itself was not devoured by the flames. In 1941, though, it was almost lost to demolition to make way for a modern building. But San Francisco philanthropist Alma Spreckles and her husband at the time, Elmer Aul, saved the day by purchasing the Blue Wing. They soon divorced, but other owners later sustained the Blue Wing until State Parks purchased it in 1968.
We felt really cared for when we lived in that building. She was looking out for us.
Throughout its long history, the Blue Wing has always been, in part at least, a residence. Among the last people to live here, from 1995 to 2000, were Barbara Jacobson and her late husband Ray, both noted Sonoma artists.
There's something about living in this kind of an environment that is so old and so saturated with memories and stories of other people's lives and history of Sonoma, and it was like a miracle. And every day that we were here was part of that miracle, and I wouldn't change that for anything. It was just one of the best times of my whole life.
Like the frontiersmen and Italian stonecutters who lived here before them, Barbara and Ray and their friends enjoyed a unique way of life in and around one of California's most original and iconic structures. They loved their wild garden in the courtyard below.
Beautiful garden, full of plants and color.
Well, Barbara, this was your wonderful perch up here with the great views. And
yes, I've always enjoyed being up and looking out like this, having this perspective.
And their apartment above.
Look out on the
Barbara
town.
went to see it with me for the first time in a decade.
This is your apartment. How does it feel to come back in and see it for the first time in a long time?
Well, it's surreal for sure. It's strange, but I'm happy it's still here, that it's still standing and alive and has hope. It was such a good time for us as artists because I think we really grew just from living in this environment and being part of this old building and part of old Sonoma and the history and the energy. It could be made beautiful again. I mean, it's already beautiful, but that it could be infused with some kind of life and service to the world, to the community. That other people could enjoy it. That would be great.
If we don't save the Blue Wing, we will actually lose perhaps our greatest portal into Northern California history.
Architect Ned Forrest knows all about saving a 2-story adobe. He lives in one the same age as the Blue Wing, just down the street. He and generations who lived here before him have cared for this old and venerated structure, and their nurturing, affection, and admiration shows in every detail.
And because they're part of our history and because they fit in the landscape so well, they have a kind of modest nobility to them as well.
The Blue Wing is a noble presence. She's a magnificent survivor. Crafted well in the very beginning, she's been saved at critical moments. Now she needs to be saved again so she can flourish in the 21st century and tell her stories for a long time to come.
It's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity for the parks, it's a great opportunity for the town of Sonoma, and it's a great opportunity for visitors who come here.
If you want to help, the official Blue Wing Adobe Preservation Committee is a citizens group formed to spearhead the preservation efforts for the Blue Wing Adobe. For additional information, email info@bluewingadobe.org. The Blue Wing Adobe, its future is up to us.